Hello, hello, happy August. I hope you guys are beating that summer heat. In my case, it's beating the wildfire smokes, but I'm doing my best out here. I hope you guys had a good reading month and are ready to listen to me yap about mine. My first book this month was a continuation of a series I said I would. I read the second book of the Poppy War called The Dragon Republic. This book's kind of like more character development focused, in my opinion. I don't want to talk about it too much for spoilers' sake, but if you know, you know. There's a lot of Rin learning to embrace her own abilities and kind of stop being manipulated by others because she has found that she's very easily wavered. And so now she's like, you know what? I'm a bad bitch and nobody's gonna tell me what to do. Yeah, more wartime, more like talking about the aftermath of a previous war. I think this book once again has a lot of like really heavy, dark topics and scenes, but I think that they're all with purpose. You know, it's not ever just needless gore. It's to nail home the point that everybody is dealing with this war that's going on differently, and some people maybe not the best. But regardless, it's really not their fault when they've been put in this situation. Yeah, there's a lot of embracing the fact that a lot of people didn't want to be in war, and maybe another war is not a great idea. So a lot of Ren trying to negotiate with people, negotiate with herself to be like, where do I draw the line with my abilities? Where do I ask for help, etc. But overall, it was really fun. I think I read this one probably faster than the Poppy War. But yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I think that it had some great fight scenes in it, and some really like fuck yeah moments for some of the characters. My favorite character got a lot of attention more this book. Still not quite as much as I want, but a lot of attention, so I got happy. But yeah, that is The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. Next up, I started a series that's been sitting on my shelf called Godkiller by Hannah Kaner. This book is about a couple of characters. It's definitely a different POV book. You switch around a lot, but the main one is a girl named Kissin, and she lives in a world where gods are everywhere, you know? There's a god for broken sandals, there's a god for lost socks, there's a god for your hot springs down the road. Everyone has a god, at least when she was a kid. But eventually, the gods kind of got a little overzealous, but so did the king of the nation, and he decided to tell them all to fuck off and like went to war with the gods. And now Kissin's older and lives in the aftermath as a god killer, someone who goes and puts gods in their places when they've outstayed their welcome, and also because they're not supposed to be around anymore. So when a village is like, oops, sorry, we've been worshiping the goddess of fertile lands and she's kind of asking us for our firstborn children now, so that's kind of a problem. Kissin's supposed to come in and be like, you guys know you're not supposed to be doing this, right? And then get rid of the god. But eventually, something changes for Kissin, and she meets a young girl who has a strange bond to a god where everything she feels, he feels, and vice versa. So her instinct is to kill this god, but she's like, if I kill the god, I kill the girl. So now she has to go on a journey of learning how to care for another being and have emotions, and also how to take care of this god and get rid of it, potentially. I was really excited to start this series because I was like, oh, it's a duology, and I bought the second book now, and then I flipped over the second book and she changed her mind and she's writing 3 books now. So now I have to wait for the third book, which I will say I don't hate because I actually really did like the series. My next book is Sunbringer, which really fluently like carries on the story. Like I definitely think you probably wouldn't get closure from just the first book. You definitely need to continue on. There's a lot of drama at the very end that needs to get like addressed. The second book is again like very character driven. Our main party gets split up. I won't say how, but they're kind of like in different locations and unknowingly like doing things to help the other or sabotage the other in some cases. So yeah, the sequel Sunbringer was definitely more like emotional, I would say, for the characters. Like they were all like mopey and trying to like figure shit out. They're like, man, we're tired. So again, I don't want to talk too much about sequels because I feel bad like with any spoilers, but I do want to say whether I think it's worth continuing series or not. So I will try to let you guys know if I think it's worth it and what kind of, you know, closure you can expect from a first book in the series. So yes, let's continue on. My next book is also a second book in the series. If you remember, either a month or two ago, I read Dark Whisperings by Maria Dembouski. She just published a sequel out of the blue. I mean, I say out of the blue because I wasn't looking for it or like following her on places being like, oh my god, is she gonna publish the next book? But yeah, I saw she published it like a few days after it came out. It came out on the 13th or 14th of July, and I was like, oh shit, I just finished a book and it was on Kindle Unlimited, so I decided to scoop her up and read her because I liked the first book a lot. I do think you can get closure from the first book though. It definitely has an ending that can lead into a sequel, but you can also just kind of interpret it however you feel. I think the sequel was good in most aspects. It did a lot of like expanding on the world, which I appreciate, a lot more, you know, talking about the monsters, and I think it really did a great job of having a villain who thinks that he's an anti-hero. And those are always fun stories to me because I love a good, like, crazy villain who's like, what do you mean? I gotta do this. And everyone's around them like, you don't have to do this. What the fuck? So I really enjoy a villain like that. And I think it was a great villain who thinks he's an anti-hero doing what I gotta do kind of story because, you know, people were trying to be very convincing and the villain was not hearing them out. So definitely good. This series, I don't know if I'm going to continue it per se because there is a minor detail in the second book that is definitely aversion. I have an aversion to it. Yeah, I think that's the phrasing I'm looking for. Which it's like minor spoilers. You could probably figure it out, but if you don't want to hear it, cover your ears for like 10 seconds. Okay, one of the people is having a kid, and I hate that because I think that they're just used as a method of manipulation of, I gotta do anything to protect my kid, and that shit pisses me off. But yes, that is Dark Paths, or Dark Path by Maria Dembouski. Next up is my book I wouldn't normally read, and I picked a contemporary literature book about grief and, you know, getting over a miscarriage and chickens. This is Brood by Jackie Polzin. I actually hated this book with a passion. I read it in one day, not one sitting, but one day, because it was a really short book, not because it was good. And it was kind of a yappery mess, you know. I'm a yapping mess, so I know one when I see one. And this book was supposed to be about how a woman had a miscarriage, and so she starts taking care of chickens, and she just feels like a really motherly bond to them and how she has to protect them. But if you don't know, chickens love to kill themselves in various ways, such as, here chicken, I gave you a nice little perch that's a foot off the ground, and then the chicken will just kill themselves by falling off of it. So they're really hard to take care of if you're not used to taking care of chickens. And if you get attached to your chickens, it's also really hard because they die. So I was expecting, you know, a story of her learning to take care of the chickens. It was kind of implied that her community was going to come together and try to, like, teach her about the chickens, either directly or indirectly, you know, like anecdotally. But that was not what I read. I read a lot of yapping about a chicken coop, a lot of yapping about a job in California that her husband was trying to get, a lot of yapping about her best friend's boyfriend who had nothing to do with the situation. It was very confusing, and I did not like it. So I wanted to just get it over with, so I read it in a day, and I got it over with, and I don't recommend it. And it was her first book, and it will be the last book I ever read by her, because it was not good. I really feel like she needed an editor to be like, you don't need all of this, get rid of it. Which is really confusing to me, because a lot of the reviews were like, oh, this was too much about chickens. To which I just, you know, I'm just dumbfounded. I was literally at a loss for words, because it wasn't enough about the chickens, in my opinion. And also, you picked a book called Brood, which was implied to be about chickens. Why are you confused? I'm confused that I'm reading about random shit that has nothing to do with the chickens or, you know, her background with her grief. What are you complaining about? Anyways, that's Brood. Definitely don't recommend unless you want a little yappy book. Next up, I read a little mystery book called Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. This book's about a very wealthy man establishing a school for like gifted students, and if you're a student who has like a focus that you're really interested in, like music or like art or things like that, you can apply to get in this job and into the school where you get to just like focus on your studies and get given any supplies you need. Like there's a librarian who will like request materials from anywhere. There's like they'll order things you need because the school just has a crazy budget. And our main character, her passion is detective work. She loves mysteries, which is great because her application to the school was because there's a mystery surrounding the school. And basically like 60 or 70 years ago, the rich guy who made the school, his wife and daughter got kidnapped and held for ransom, and they never got returned. So someone got arrested for the crime and you know, went to court for it, but a lot of people who are really familiar with the case just don't think that he did it. And so our main character's here because she wants to solve the mystery. She wants to find the true culprit. But while she's doing this, maybe a couple mysteries at school will unfold as well for her in modern times. And so this book kind of has a dual mystery going on where there's one in the past and one in the present. And they give you a lot of information about the past and the present. But nothing happens in the book until like 70%. Now you're seeing where my gripe comes, okay? I thought this was a fun book, okay? It felt like an Americanized Danganronpa because like everyone was like, I'm a super high school level saxophone player. I'm a super high school level artist, you know? You have like these crazy people who are like just, I'm a super high school level fucking mechanic. I don't know. They were doing crazy shit. They were students who loved their work, you know? But yeah, it felt very Danganronpa-y because they were all kind of like quirky where they're like, oh, this one wore like all lemons and stuff like that. Like, okay, weird details that we don't need. I think this was fun except for the parts where we spent just like forever describing things that weren't important, which will also become relevant because the next book I read was the sequel, where we spent a lot of time describing all of these same things that we described in the first book with the exact same wording. Like she'd walk in a room and be like, oh, this was formerly the office of blah blah blah, but they took out all of the bookshelves or all of the blah 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 and put bookshelves in, and now he has this and this. And then the next book she'd walk into that room and give you the exact same description with the exact same wording. Girl, you're a detective, pick some new details. Drives me crazy. And the second book, also nothing happened until 70%. And these books really tie together. That's why I'm putting them together. This book, you do not get closure in the first book. You have to continue the series if you want closure, which sucks because I don't really think it's worth it. Let me tell you. I was very frustrated because they revealed something at the end of the first book and then they just kind of like psyched in the second book. Which was very frustrating because I had solved the mystery. The like old one, like the one with the kidnappings, I had solved it in the first book, but I didn't get to find out whether I was right until I finished the second book, because once again in the second book nothing happens until 70% of the way into the book. It was very, very time consuming. But I thought they were fun enough that I didn't hate it. It wasn't the worst way I spent my time, but I won't be continuing the series. One, because for some reason you can read the first, second, and fourth book on Kindle Unlimited, but not the third, and the fifth doesn't even exist. So I don't even know what the fuck's going on there. They gotta get their stuff sorted. But yes, I thought it was fun for like what I was doing, but I don't think it would ever be like oh, I gotta finish that series, because really there was a love interest that was just pathetic. The main character was kind of just like a shitty person overall. Like, I don't want to say anything, but she was told a secret and she just started telling everyone, even though the person who told her the secret was like, yeah, I told my other friend and I really respect her because she never told anyone. This bitch goes and tells everyone like instantly. She's like, oh, I gotta tell people. You're a bitch. You're a bitch. Yeah, I don't know. I did not I don't know. It was like a 3-star read, you know, medium ground. If you're interested in like quirky high school like murder mystery, you can read that. I've heard that A Good Girl's Guide to Murder is much better. I'm probably gonna try to read that one soon. So if you see that in my upcoming reviews, that's why. But yes, it was fun, but it wasn't really well done. You know, the murder mysteries parts of it were very infuriatingly bad. So it is what it is. My last book this month was one I actually really enjoyed, and it's kind of put me in a spiral. I read Atalanta by Jennifer Saint. My spiral now is Greek retellings, which is great because there's tons of them. But this is the story of Atalanta, obviously. She was a girl born to a king who wanted a son, so he left her on a mountain to die. But she was adopted by a mother bear and then inevitably raised by like Artemis and her nymphs in the forest, where she became a master huntress alongside Artemis. And one day Artemis goes, "Hey Atalanta, you're my champion. You're like the best I've ever done. I need you. I don't want you. I need you to go on this trip with Jason and the Argonauts to go get the Golden Fleece." Now some of you might be like, huh? Because a lot of stories don't include Atalanta, but that is, you know, just simply part of Atalanta's story. She was a woman who nobody wanted to go on the Argonauts, so she had to go and convince them, and then she carried their asses through it. But, I mean, at least in this one. But yeah, I thought it was really nice, you know? I thought it was a good, like, character-focused story. I usually like plot-driven ones, but this one was definitely, like, about Atalanta and how she felt growing up, how she felt finally leaving the forest, how she felt on the Argonauts. You know, it was very much like, this is all new to her, this is all like crazy to her, how does she feel, what is she doing, you know, and a woman among all of these men who are just constantly like, psh, you can't do shit, but then she's constantly whooping their asses. It was fun. I liked it. I love a powerful woman. And I definitely want to keep reading more Greek retellings, so if you see a bunch more of those in my next recap, that's why. I'm on a spiral now, and I really want more, so yeah, we'll see where I go with that. Thank you for listening. I hope I didn't sound too short or impatient. I did have to re-record this whole video. My OBS audio got all messed up, but I'm here now and everything's fixed, so let's hope next time won't be such a pain. Please let me know any books that you guys read this month, any recommendations you have for me, and yeah, let me know if you found something interesting. I will see you guys next time with another recap. Goodbye!